Hey, welcome back to another episode of Whiskey Row. So tonight we're going to be diving into the 10 bourbons that were the most disappointing to me when I first had them, and then we're going to see if they still are disappointing to me. Now I've got them lined up over here. We're going to dive into them in just a minute, but let me explain the criteria for just a second. These aren't necessarily the 10 worst whiskeys. If I buy a $15 bourbon from the bottom shelf and it's not good, I'm really not that disappointed because I didn't expect it to be good. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean that you should or shouldn't like it. We all have different tastes and different preferences in the bourbon world. Some things are good to us, some things are bad to us, and that's okay. So if something on this list wasn't good when I first had it and I still don't like it, that's okay. If you love it, I'm glad. I'm glad you found something you love. It's really just the 10 that when I bought them, I had some expectation or some hope that they would be good. And those hopes were crushed when I first had them. You longtime viewers of the channel know that if I'm doing the 10 most disappointing in any way, shape, or form, one of my Woodinvilles is going to be in there. And this is the port finished Woodinville. The North Carolina store pick Woodinville that I used to have is gone to Jordan in Washington somewhere, but I still have this Woodinville finished in port cask. It's a 90 proof. You can tell that I really haven't had much of it. I used it in one of my port finish tastings a while back and it didn't do a lot for me. So let's see what if I still am disappointed with it or not. Now, the reason this was disappointing is I got the North Carolina store pick, and a lot of you out there swore that it must have been the barrel I had, the pick that I had, that was not very good, and that the regular Woodinvilles are good. So instead of getting a regular one, I needed to get a port finish for a video I was shooting, and I didn't like it at all. On the nose, I'm getting this very kind of rubber chemical smell. Then under that, there's some sweetness, a little bit of kind of an ethanol plastic smell. It definitely doesn't smell very good, so I don't have high hopes my opinion's going to change today. Nope. Still not good. I will say that it's better than I remember, but it's still terrible. It has this very, very harsh tannic bite at the front. When you go to drink it, I have to block my nose because I don't want to smell it at all. I would have said a 0 out of 10. I would probably give it a 1 out of 10 now, but it's not good. I don't like this at all. So this is going to be a dump out cup for anything that I can't finish. Here we have the Woodford Reserve Masters Collection Chocolate Malted Rye. Now, when I first had this, actually, when I bought this, I spent $150 down in Georgia. I paid a little over secondary down there, and I'd heard mixed reviews about it, so I knew I was kind of getting it was a little bit of a gamble whether I'd like this one or not. But I had no idea how bad I would really be disappointed in this. I was like, oh, it can't be that bad. There's, those guys that are saying that it's okay, it's kind of not great. They're like whiskey snobs, they're bourbon snobs. They get all the good stuff. They weren't lying. This is actually pretty bad. So one thing you should know, that they call it a chocolate malted rye, but it's not rye. There's rye in it, but it's not a rye whiskey. It's actually a bourbon. So on the nose, I do get a little bit of a chocolate, there's maybe a hair grain kind of thing on it. And then some fruit from the rye. It's actually not that bad on the nose. It doesn't smell like a traditional bourbon at all, but it's not bad. It's just unique and different on the nose. That's really bad. So it kind of tastes like have you ever had like one of the little chocolate malt balls go rotten and it's just covered in like fungus and stuff, but you choose to eat it anyway? I've never done that. But if I did that, I think that's what this would taste like. This still disappoints. So I know Woodford Reserve can actually do some really good stuff. This wasn't a good idea. This was really terrible. I would never, ever, ever sit down and want to drink this. On a scale of 1 to 10, I probably would have said it was a 1 out of 10. Now I would probably say it's a 2 out of 10. And it doesn't taste like I'm being poisoned. It's coming up in the world. Thanks, Woodford Reserve. Appreciate it. So part of doing this video, I'm throwing myself in front of you saying I make mistakes. There are times when I have opinions or first pours or first tastes. They're not good and I don't like them, and that's just how it is. And I tell you guys what I feel and what I think. But sometimes I feel maybe I'm overly harsh. Sometimes maybe it just needed some time to open up, whatever it is. This is an example of that. So this is a single barrel cask strength barrel bourbon coming at 113 proof. If this bottle looks familiar, it's because it's actually in my most recent top 5 go-to bourbons. But it's in this list because when I first got it, it's like almost all the other barrel products that I've ever owned. When I first open them, I don't like them. This thing is actually not bad at all. It's in one of my 5 go-tos. I've almost polished it off now. I am not at all ashamed to get in front of you and say I messed up. But it's going to happen. I've messed up before. I've mistitled videos. I say I didn't like it, or I say I do like it, and I go back to it and I was like, why did I like this? This is gross. The point is that I have no problem getting on camera with you guys and saying I messed up. I messed up. This is really, really good. Is it worth the $80, $70, $80 price point? 5 years and 6 months. It's not worth it. That said, it's actually pretty good. And I was wrong. On the nose, it kind of smells like chocolate-covered graham crackers. I don't know how much of that is residual from the chocolate malted rye. I'm getting like a little bit of a chocolate, some graham cracker, a little bit of honey. It just smells really good on the nose. It's got a little bit of a bitter bite at first. It's got a really good mouthfeel, a good presence. It's got a nice, solid, sweet, almost maple syrup finish. It's a good bourbon. You know, some other reviewers on YouTube have talked about how good Barrel is, and that's part of the reason why this made the list, because I was just so disappointed when I first got it, and I just didn't like it. Same with the other Barrel stuff I had. I actually bought 4 different bottles of Barrel for several $100s before I actually opened one and tasted it. Lessons learned. I wouldn't do this one again, and I won't rebuy this. This one turned out to be really good. I was wrong. Now we have The Prisoner by Bardstown Bourbon Company. This is a bourbon that has been finished in French oak red wine barrels, coming in at 100 proof. It was the same price as the Discovery Series, coming in at almost $120, $125-ish. I had just kind of come off learning that the Bardstown Discovery Series 4 is actually really good, because that was another one that I just didn't really like that much when I bought it. And then after a couple of months, I went back to it, and it's really, really good. On the nose, I'm getting a lot of like malted grains, a little bit of a sweetness. Reminds me of like cereal and milk, touch of vanilla and caramel. Smells not bad. It's not bad at all on the nose. It's not bad like the Woodinville and the Woodford Reserve, but it's not very good. There's very, very strong red wine and like wooden barrel flavor to it. The proof seems higher than 100 proof. It's got a decent fruity sweetness though. I think I would say that this is probably like a 4 out of 10, but I don't have to choke it down like I do some of the other ones. At $130, it's not at all worth it. That in and of itself is still very disappointing. Next up is something I picked up down in Georgia this summer. I've actually not had it for very long. It's a St. Cloud, cask strength, 118 proof. I believe this is under 4 years. So how long is it? Well, somewhere from 2 to 4 years. It's got this cool Saint Angel thing flying on the front. It's kind of cool looking. It's a cool looking bottle. I think I paid around $120 for this. For a young bourbon, it's not terrible. Probably worth about $30. It's fun. On the nose, there's a hint of woodiness. It's got a nice honey sweetness. Touch of caramel, maybe, on the nose. A little bit of proof there, too. This is worse than I remember. I thought I remembered it as being like just not bad, but just not worth the money. But now it's not very good at all. It has a good mouthfeel, but the flavor is like very piney and strong. It's got a hint of sweetness. It has almost like a lemon zest underneath that pininess. It's just not good. I can't finish this. So I'm using the shot glass so that I'm pouring about the same amount of each into the glass. Every now and then when I'm on YouTube, it's time for me to eat crow. Well, let me tell you. So this is Russell's Reserve 10-year. For the longtime viewers of the channel, you know that I had a bottle of Russell's Reserve 10-year, and it's actually over there. It wasn't very good. I didn't like it. And I like the Russell's Reserve single barrel, and I love Wild Turkey in general. So why the hate? You know, why didn't I like it? I promised you guys I would get a new bottle of Russell's Reserve 10-year, and I have. Let's try this bottle and see what we've got. So on the nose, there's a little bit of a hint of an herbal, caramel, vanilla, a little bit of a kind of a barrel char. It smells pretty good. It smells kind of like a good Wild Turkey smell, like what you would expect from Wild Turkey. That's actually pretty good. So a lot of you, when I was blasting the Russell's 10, you guys said it must be a bad bottle, something, and I think it was. Like, I put these side by side, and they're different. Russell's 10 is definitely no longer on my bad list. It's definitely on my good list. This is a good bourbon. I still think I prefer the Wild Turkey Rare Breed over the 10-year Russells. So on the palate, it's got a nice sweetness. It's only 90 proof, so it's not super strong, but it's still at 90 proof. Still has a good mouthfeel. A little bit of a barrel char. It's not overly sweet. It's like got a really good balance of like herbal sweetness, and there's some spice, a little black pepper. It's a really well-balanced bourbon at 10 years, a good price point. There's really not much to disappoint. I'm eating crow. This is way better than the first bottle I got. Barrel Dovetail. This was actually the first barrel product I ever purchased. I purchased this, then I bought the single barrel, and then I bought another one, and then I bought the $250 15-year one. You know, almost a year now, and this is all that's been drunk out of it. I've had it in a couple of blinds, I think. It's not something I really go to. I just didn't really like it, and for the price, it just seemed really kind of overpriced. So the Barrel Dovetail is finished in rum, port, and Dun Vineyard casks. This comes in at 124 proof, so it's definitely proofy. So on the nose, I'm getting a lot of like burnt sugars and caramels. I'm thinking that's coming from maybe the rum cask. It smells really pretty good. There's a hint of butterscotch, maybe a touch of herbalness, ever so faint. Let's see if it's better than I remember. It's better than I remember. It's actually pretty good. All right, I was wrong. It happens. So this is an extremely complex bourbon. There's like this burnt sugar and caramels that are really, really good, but then it's fruity, probably from the wine cask. But then it's got this really nice mouthfeel and coat from the proof. It's got a nice finish. It's actually a really good bourbon. When I had this the first time, I probably would say it was a 4 out of 10. Now I think it's more like a 7 out of 10. I think my palate's developed a lot, and this is much, much better than I remember. So well done, Barrel. You've gone 2 for 2 in redeeming yourself, or in me redeeming myself in my opinion of you. Whatever it is. Cheers. So here we have the Bardstown Bourbon Company Discovery Series 4. Now when I first got this, I opened it up. I paid $130. I didn't like it. I was really, really disappointed. I got this and a Fusion at the same time. First 2 Bardstown products. Took them home, tried them, so let down, really, really disappointing. So since then, I really didn't touch it. And then I did it in a blind not too long ago, and I don't remember the topic of the blind or why I picked this one. And it did really well in the blind. I actually used it in a second blind, and it didn't do quite as well, but it kind of intrigued me. And so I actually started drinking it here and there, just getting a little sip of it to try it. So on the nose, it's got this very, very sweet vanilla, touch of caramel, hint of almost like a barrel char. So to me, it comes across on the nose as kind of a sweet bourbon. On the palate, this thing is really pretty solid. You get a nice barrel char, a really good mouthfeel, a good mouth coat. It's got this really, really nice sweetness. I would probably call it like a caramel vanilla sweetness. It's really, really pretty good, and there's this nice barrel char underneath. That flavor normally comes across to me as very bitter, but in this, it actually comes across very good. There's a hint of maltiness, a little bit of fruitiness, a little bit of herbalness on the palate. It's kind of all there. It's a very well-balanced bourbon. So I have to kind of eat crow on this one too, because this is a really good bourbon. Here we have Little Book, Lessons Honored, Chapter 4. Now this thing is coming in at 122 proof. I've shared it with a few people. I bought it. I was so excited to get it. I kind of I'm a Jim Beam fan, right? I love my Baker's 7, and I really, really like my Booker's for the most part. Even though it's kind of expensive, I still really like them. I was really, really excited when I finally found this one. On the nose, it's really, really good. That's the problem with this. It's so deceptive. On the nose, it's like this nice caramel and vanilla, and there's like these nice cereal grains. It's just so mild and dessert-like. Oh, it just smells so good on the nose. And then you drink it, and it falls apart. It's this harsh chemical taste. It's hard to describe. It kind of reminds me of like burnt toast with lemons, and then like chocolate and vanilla syrup from ice cream. It's just all over the place. It was really disappointing, and it still is. I probably would say I'm as disappointed in Little Book now as I was when I first got it. So this bottle is actually the genesis for this video. E.H. Taylor Single Barrel. I don't even remember what the name of the video was called, but this was like the quintessential bottle. A lot of you guys were really mad that I said, you know, that this was really kind of a letdown bourbon, but it was. And I poured myself a little bit of it and sipped on it last night, and I was like, man, this is actually pretty good. So that's why we're filming the video today. For whatever reason, there was something about this particular single barrel that I just didn't like. I don't think it was my palate, because I tried it multiple times and I just didn't like it. Because there's a lot of other Buffalo Trace stuff that I really, really like the Elmer T. Lee. I love that stuff. Eagle Rare, really, really good. Stag Jr., really, really good. E.H. Taylor Single Barrel, I didn't really like, and the small batch doesn't do a lot for me either. But then last night I had it. Now I'm in front of you eating crow. On the nose, it has this nice honey sweetness, a little bit of proof, nice fruity quality to it. Smells pretty good, a little bit more fruity. It's still really, really good. On the palate, it's just full of sweetness and fruit. So a little bit of an herbalness and a black pepper and clove that kind of balance out that sweetness. This is exceptionally good. I was wrong. I led you astray. This single barrel is really, really good. And the sad part is, after the last video, I just gave away a bunch of samples to people who didn't believe me or whatever, or they want it for trades, and I'm like, well, I don't like that bottle anyway, so let's give away the samples. Anyway, what a terrible mistake, because this is a really good bourbon. Anyway, as we sip on this E.H. Taylor, let's talk about lessons learned. I think the biggest lesson is that for any of you people that are new in bourbon, just realize that your palate is going to change over time. What you like is going to evolve. And sometimes you didn't love them at first, and now you kind of do. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you for supporting the channel. And until next time, find a bottle you love.